Hey, Michael J.
M21 here. It's actually here, right? Like the pre-release digitally is this weekend, right?
Actually is kind of a funny way to describe it, but it is virtually here.
It is okay. So it is virtually actually here, but not actually here.
What do you think, man? What's caught your eye, though?
I was actually, it's maybe a weird place because these aren't like the high buzz, high chase stuff, but I want to talk about some of the uncommon gold cards, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So
that is an interesting spot, though.
Yeah, a couple of them are I think at least interesting, worthy of having a discussion about rate, having a discussion about utility. Maybe they can find a home kind of thing. I always feel like the real value as a deck designer is finding the stuff that is not obvious, where you can jam a little value in there, and thought I'd bounce some of these cards off you. Let's start with Alpine Houndmaster, the Boros 2-drop.
So this guy's red-white for a 2/2. That when the Houndmaster enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a card named Alpine Watchdog and/or a card named Igneous Cur. Reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle your library. And when Alpine Huntmaster attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of other attacking creatures.
So, I mean, this card is a 2/2 for 2. All right, I'm listening. And he's kind of Ancestor Recall-ish, but you got to pay a bit of a deck building price to play him. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, because, you put him down and he draws you 2 cards, but those 2 cards are for instance, the Igneous Cur is a 1 in a red, 1/2 elemental dog with 1 in a red to get +2/+0 until end of turn. Although, honestly, that one, I don't know, dude. Is that really that bad of a card?
It's not the worst card. The thing is,
people have played worse in Constructed. And same with Alpine Watchdog, man. One in a white
Alpine Watchdog is a rich dog. It's a rich dog compared to what I'd play.
Well, I don't know, man. The Cur is an elemental, too. It's got good types.
Yeah, so, here's the thing with the Igneous Cur. You play the Igneous Cur, it's 1/2 for 2. Not a great combat creature if you're tapping out for it on turn 2. But in fact, it's a better combat creature in that spot than other stuff people in red play, right? It's bigger than a Runaway Steamkin to start. It trades with a shock or the front side of a stomp on a Bone Crusher Giant. And the thing is, later in the game, if they don't kill it, it's actually a pretty decent threat. It can kill, huge creatures in combat or deal a lot of damage. It has a high ceiling. It's just not what people are used to wanting to play, I think.
I don't know, though, man. People weren't that used to playing with 1/1 flyers for 2, and they got used to it pretty quickly.
Because they were ancestrals, right?
So 4 for 1.
Yeah, more than an ancestral. So the thing is, let's talk about the white one, Alpine Watchdog, for a sec. So this guy is 1 in a white for a 2/2 Vigilance dog. In my day when I was a white creature mage, I would pay 1 in a white for a 2/2 no Vigilance. If I wanted to get the Vigilance, I'd have to invest white, right? So this is an upgrade relative to 20 years ago me as a white weenie player.
Dude, this one's even a dog.
Yeah, there's lots of dog stuff going on even outside the Boros 2-drop, Alpine Houndmaster. So what do you think? These guys are all 2-drops. People like a 2-drop. They don't make you go to a third color or anything. But I think to get the value, you're committing 12 slots of your deck to these 2-drops. No?
Why do you have to play 12?
All right.
You're saying that you need, in case you draw several of these, you need to make sure you're still getting 3 off the third one?
Well,
if you've drawn,
I'm kind of thinking no matter what stage of the game it is, if I'm playing an Alpine Houndmaster, I'm not going to be real happy if it results in a 2/2 vanilla for the turn that I play it for 2 as opposed to a card draw. So I'm gonna need some. I think you need more fuel on the other end than you're gonna have Houndmasters, right?
No. Why? let's go to an extreme. What would you rather have? 1 Houndmaster and 4 of the Alpine Watchdog, or 4 Houndmaster, 1 Watchdog?
4 Houndmaster, 1 Watchdog is a much greater likelihood of me getting card advantage than 1 Houndmaster, 4 Watchdog.
Right. So the Watchdogs and the Curs have diminishing returns. Maybe it's right to just play the full 12 pack, but like the fourth
weird.
one is the fourth one is the weakest, right?
Yeah.
Like you could easily imagine just playing 3 Watchdogs and 3 Curs, because like the only way you're not getting your card advantage is if you've already drawn, like, say you've drawn 2 other Houndmasters, and you've drawn a Cur, and you've drawn a Watchdog. In that scenario, then finally you pay the price. But, like, I don't know, man. I think that some other cards are good, and that you don't necessarily just want to have more 1/2 Watchdogs and 2/2 Vigilance creatures, unless you have good types like Hound with some kind of Dog Lord.
It's funny you put it that way, because if I'm playing, right, so all these things have happened, and I'm still playing, it sounds like my draws of the Houndmasters and the Alpines and the Curs and stuff have probably kept me in the game and gotten money. So maybe just drawing a 2/2, no extra Houndmaster isn't that bad in that spot.
Well, and just remember, the 2/2 you're drawing, it's like you could have, think of it this way. Let's say what's left in your deck. Let's say you were playing the full 12 pack, right?
Yeah.
And all that was left in your deck was 1 Houndmaster, 1 of the Cur, and 1 of the Watchdog.
Yep.
If you were to draw the Houndmaster there, you're going to get 3 for 1.
Yep.
But if you draw the Cur, you have a 1/2 Fire Breather, right?
Yeah, that's probably a better draw than the Watchdog in that spot.
Well, but hold on. But if you draw the 1/2 Fire Breather, what if instead it was a different 2-drop that's really dope, right? Because if you were to imagine you replace your 4th copy of the Watchdog and your 4th copy of the Cur, you're twice as likely to draw one of those as you are to draw the Hound, the Houndmaster. And drawing a good 2-drop instead of one of those is like pretty great.
Yeah, it could be good. Could be good.
So I don't know. I also don't know that you need to like. I could imagine 11 is right. It depends.
I can see that.
But I don't know, man. I don't think it's out of the question to consider playing 8. It's like Stoneforge Mystic. You remember how many people, when Stoneforge Mystic first came out, they wanted to have like 4 or 5 pieces of equipment minimum in every deck? But like eventually we got to a spot where it's like, dude, let's be real. If you Stoneforge twice, you'll be all right. Right?
Stoneforge once, probably enough to win the game.
I could easily imagine if you Houndmaster twice, you'll be all right.
So you'd be thinking on an 8-pack, 4, 2, and 2, right? So 4 Houndmaster and then 2 each of the red and the white guys?
I think you could do it that way. I also think that you should try more. I think you should play the Houndmasters. They're the really, really good one.
But when we say we should play the Houndmaster, I mean if we're going to go down this road.
Yeah.
Play the Houndmaster.
This sounds like a great road, man.
Yeah.
I think so. This seems really good.
Ancestor Recalls are powerful, right? That's,
Yeah. Dude, this seems great. These guys are great. I'm in for it. I don't know if I'm playing 8, 10, 11, 12, who knows, but I'm here for it.
Okay. I like your verdict on that one. So I got another one for you in this same kind of macro class.
Sure.
What do you think of the Conclave Mentor, the Selesnya 2/2 for 2?
So this one's a 2/2 that if 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, put that many +1 instead. And when Conclave Mentor dies, you gain life equal to its power. So we talked about this one briefly the other week, but this is the Winding Constrictor that doesn't interact with player counters, but instead you have this death trigger that gains you some life. I don't know, man. It's good. It's like Winding Constrictor. Plus, it's a 2-2 instead of 2-3, of course, right?
Yeah.
But, like,
so, I mean,
this is good, right?
Well, do you imagine a universe where you play both, or no? We're gonna go.
Well, I mean, you're talking about at a higher power format.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Maybe. It depends on what the mana looks like. Nowadays, there's so many of these type of cards that you might want to just be playing like mono green or something. I don't know. But like, you could play this if you want. I mean, as long as your mana supports it, it's just it doesn't actually have +1/+1 counters itself, so it's not like it's all the way in. I more am thinking that like lower powered formats might want some of this action, you know? That said, I mean, maybe in Pioneer, you just bust out Conclave Mentor and Winding Constrictor. I don't know.
You know, I have a bias towards thinking about red aggro decks. I kind of think about this card as having some ceiling to it, but then in addition, if you just like bust it out on turn 2, block and trade, it's not the worst, right? You're a little bit ahead on a clean trade.
Totally, a 2/2 that dies for 2 life is like very passable against a red deck. Like people have sideboarded stuff somewhat comparable to that. You know, like the 1/3 for 2 that you gain 3.
And then if it doesn't die on turn 3, you just bust out your Stonecoil Serpent. It's extra big. That's kind of sweet, right? That's like very Loxodon-ish at 3.
Yeah, and that's to say nothing of literally doing the Loxodon. If you Loxodon with this guy, you are in business, right?
But that is a different one. Yes, if you actually do the Loxodon,
seems fantastic.
Your opponent is Loxodon. That's what's going to happen.
I see. So yeah, I think this one's pretty good. I don't know. It's not like crazy, but I think it's good. It's going to be. I think it single-handedly makes me interested in building one of those Loxodon like nearly mono white decks, but with green as the splash.
Yep. It's pretty cool, I think, in that this is kind of like resurrecting cards that were like real good, but no one has really touched in a while. That were previously pretty dominating.
I do think that the difference between the second, third point of toughness is gonna really show up sometimes. Whether somebody just gives everything -2/-2, or somebody just shocks this guy, you're going to feel it.
Oh, well, if we're talking about go-wide strategies, yeah, -2/-2 on a 2/3 versus this guy that is ruining somebody's cereal. Yes, it's not a tasty bowl of cereal anymore. Of this kind of macro class, there's one other that I thought was interesting to kind of throw out there. The rare Gruul Elf Warrior, Rada, Heart of Keld. I believe this is the third Rada we've seen over the course of time.
So Rada, still a legendary Elf Warrior. This new version, 1 in a red and a green for a 3/3. As long as it's your turn, Rada has first strike, and you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you can play lands from the top of your library, a la Courser of Crufix. And then Rada also has 4 RG. Rada gets +X/+X, where X is the number of lands you control. Why would this card not be good?
So,
just because it's the 3/3 and people are scared?
Yeah, I think the only objection I have is just around the toughness. I mean, that's the primary difference to me between this and a Courser. Obviously, Courser's also it's a great defender and helps you to gain life. This card is a heck of a gnarled mass, though. It's better at fighting than a gnarled mass, and it's a card advantage card and same size body otherwise. So I don't know. It's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, I can see this card. It seems pretty awesome, but I don't know if it necessarily is a home. It certainly doesn't. It doesn't fit into just the typical Gruul shell, does it? Maybe I'm crazy.
How many lands do you need to play off the top of your deck to have gotten your money's worth out of this 3/3 for 3 that you can pay 6 to give +6/+6 to?
At 1, I think you're already in the bonus.
Yeah,
you're in the bonus at 1. Right? At 2, You're like way above expectation.
Like, if you have a 3/3 first striker on your turn that you can pay 6 to give +6/+6 to, That's like a pretty good root walla, right?
Yeah, so
That's a 3-drop that hits like a ton.
The thing about that ability is just like, oh, well, this costs 3, so my expectation is +3/+3. Well, no. It costs 6. That's how many lands you need to tap to make the ability go, right? So, unless you've got a lot of elf action, this one is pretty hardy in terms of its ability to. I was going to say overrun. It's not really an overrun. It's a very tall on one.
Root walla.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a buyer on Rada Heart of Keld.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are we a buyer on all 3?
Well, I'm very into Alpine Houndmaster, and I'm pretty into Rada, and I'm sure with Conclave Mentor.
Well, Conclave Mentor is like a give it a swing, right?
It's fine. Yeah, no, it'll be fine. It's just it doesn't scratch any of my itches. Rada, I probably am biased. I think it's pretty good, and I love it and going to play it more than it's good. Alpine Houndmaster, I think, is just quietly unreal.
Yeah, I think Alpine Houndmaster, it's funny. It's just this card, even though it has so many of the attributes of cards we know are great, I feel like it's still, padding around under the radar.
Anybody sleeping on this one is insane. This card is so good.
So, all right, you heard it here first. Alpine.
Okay, dude, how about this? How good is a 2/2 that when it attacks gets +X+0, where X is the number of other attacking creatures?
Just that's it? That's the only thing?
That's it.
It probably doesn't cross the bar.
So that card is close, right? You would have it cross the bar if there was say it's like a set where it's like tribal. This is the vampire, the whatever.
Yeah. So there are a lot of
things. It would not take much.
If one of those mana is Phyrexian or something, all of a sudden that card's insane, right? That's yes, it does. But it's close to the bar, but I don't think it crosses the bar by itself.
You do not have to play with very many 2/2 Vigilances or 1/2 Fire Breathers in your deck to make it worth it, because if you play the first one of these and draw 2 extra threats, you're ahead enough that even if the second one did nothing, you're ahead of the game.
Wow, that's a great point. I mean, if you're just going to, let's say you have one set, you're like Houndmaster, follow up with the other 2, attack with all 3. 2 of those guys are actually pretty substantial threats already on the battlefield. You could probably trade up to a lot of things that somebody might have played in the meantime, and then the other one is the other one. But it was a free card.
And dude, we play 2/2 that just draws you another 2, like a 2/2 for 3 that just draws you another 2/2. A 2/2 for 2 with Vigilance? Dude, that's so much better than those stupid Legionnaire vampire guys that were pretty decent.
Yeah, I guess if you, there are actually enough things that you could just be doing with this. Probably makes it great. Like the ability to make it. This is a one-man army. Right?
No, dude, this card is great regardless. You might be able to do something great with this great card. It doesn't take all these other things you're talking about.
It's already great. Forget about it, right?
This card is great.
Okay. Because I was thinking about Loxodonning with these guys. It's like a one-man Loxodon setup squad.
Dude, that sounds good. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm in. You're going to turn me into a white weenie player. It was crazy. I saw my arena stats from last month, and they said that my favorite color was white. And I was just like, wow, what does that mean?
Dude, if only you wanted to play a deck that was like half humans and half non-humans.
Oh, man. Wait a second. So Alpine Houndmaster is a human. Dogs are non-humans. My soul has been bared, and it gets sold away as soon as you hit 4 mana, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yep, that is what I'm saying.
That's okay. I think I'm probably into that. You know what's crazy? When you get the Winota triggers, right, and then you flip up more Alpine Houndmasters, which then in turn search up more dogs.
And they thin your deck so that you have a higher concentration of humans.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, although I truly believe though that if you're summoning a Winota at any point, you've sold yourself. You're not a good person.
So do any of the other gold cards do it for you?
Oh, sure. I mean, like the Azorius one, Niambi, we talked about before. That card is clearly crazy. But I mean, the other ones, I'm like, I think I'm a little off on rate for most of them, right? Like, I'm not super into it's just random 3 casting cost ones that don't draw a bunch of extra cards. Like, Rod is clearly going to draw a bunch of extra cards or deal a ton of extra damage, so it's super attractive.
Wait. Wait, you're saying that you're not you don't think Experimental Overload has enough rate?
I was thinking about the creatures specifically.
Dude, this makes a creature.
All right, so let's talk about Experimental Overlord, which is a 4 casting cost sorcery.
That doesn't have Overload.
So it's actually in the Overload colors, not even Overload color, right? So create an XX blue and red weird creature token, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Then you may return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Experimental Overload. You don't even need that second clause, and this card is like close to playable in some decks, right? Once you add that second clause, it's pretty powerful, right? You're talking
about some decks in Draft? Because in Constructed, this wasn't really playable at 3, right?
I mean, when you say that, you forget that I was excited to play it at 3. It didn't go very far, but I did try it.
So, at the very least, can we agree that creating a 2/2 blue and red weird token that's like, or not a 2/2, but an XX where X is the number of instants and sorceries, that's clearly better than a 2/2, right?
For 4?
No, the token, not for 4, just the token. Like in general, if you can just play an XX where X is the number of instants and sorceries, it's going to be better than a 2/2 a pretty great amount of the time.
Yes, appreciably so. I mean, like, if you're just defending yourself for the first 4 turns of the game, you're just like shot counterspell or like cycler or whatever. The expectation is this is going to be, probably bigger than 4/4 if you're doing things, right? 3/3.
Would you agree that returning an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand is clearly better than drawing a card?
Yes, I think that this is extraordinarily powerful, not on turn 4. That's actually what I'm thinking.
So, well, no. That might be the case, but I'm just saying that if you look at both halves, this is a 2/2 that draws a card, except that the 2/2, it's probably a mana better than a 2/2. And the draw a card, it's at least a mana better than draw a card. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know where you draw the line, but the biggest problem with this card is the fact that there's so many other insane 4s, right?
Well, I mean, it depends what specific kind of strategy you're talking about and what you're comparing it to. Like, let's say you're playing a deck that's just like all card drawing or all spells kind of thing. This is much more attractive than almost anything else you could be doing if you had that kind of a context.
Maybe. I mean, it costs more. One of those decks like to keep it a little lower to the ground.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm just imagining this card on like turn 6 or turn 8. It is ferocious if you're in one of those situations, right? Where you can like get back a value counter spell, or I mean, you might not do this because this is very, very expensive and fancy, but like kind of a larger format. If you were like turn 8 Experimental Overload, return Cryptic Command, whew, that would be filthy.
This card actually reminds me in a lot of ways of Crackling Drake, right?
Yes.
Like, it's a 4-cost threat, but instead of having the 0/4 flyer that dynamically updates the front, you get it locked in, which is a worse threat. But this card can be better, obviously, like if it gets huge. But it's cheaper to cast, and instead of just drawing a card, you actually get to like relearn something. So like, I don't know, man. This card seems like it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is also in a situation where if you could play it at instant speed, it's different than a creature, right? So I'm just going to make this up, not a card that's currently legal in standard, but there's effects like this. If you were to have like turn 5 or something, you cast a Quicken, right? Put a card in your graveyard, draw a card, cast their Experimental Overload. That would be meaningfully better than casting a creature most of the time, only because you played it at instant speed, right? So you could do that.
I don't know, man. You could
combat.
just say this, I guess, but you could also do that with whatever lets you play your creatures fast if we're just adding cards to the format.
Okay, I mean, you could set it up with a Teferi, but I guess everything's done with a Teferi.
Yeah, I mean, but like, it's also a token, right? Like, a token's worse than a creature. Stuff happens. It gets, like,
bounced is terrible. Yeah. I agree.
Do any of the other ones do it for you? I mean, Watcher of the Spheres we talked about, and Neombi you alluded to earlier, but is there any hope for indulging Patrician?
So
1/4 flying life link that at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life, each opponent loses 3 life.
That seems a little low impact to me. I mean, I guess 1/4 flying life link is a reasonably high expectation of being able to defend you and then also gain a little life because it's just going to kind of get in there with less likelihood of being blocked. I don't mind that part too much, but I don't know. I think that this thing is a lot of ticks away from a Vampire Nighthawk.
Yeah, me too. So what do you think of Rin and Seri Inseparable? This is that 1 red, green, white, 4/4 legendary dog cat. We talked about it briefly before, but now that we've got the context and can see how many dogs and cats there are, including that Unreal Houndmaster, the abilities of Rin and Seri look pretty appealing, not pretty appealing, but they have purpose now, which is 4/4. When you cast a dog spell, you get a 1/1 green cat, and when you cast a cat spell, you get a 1/1 white dog. And then Rin and Seri also has tap, pay red, green, white. Rin and Seri deals damage to any target equal to the number of dogs you control, and you gain life equal to the number of cats you control.
I mean, assuming you can cast this card, which is not that much of a hurdle, basically 1 and then Naya it up, it seems like a pretty solid card, right? So 4/4 for 4 isn't the worst. If that was all that was going on here, that wouldn't be enough. But you put it together with some of the not just cat and dog synergies, just like the playable cats or dogs. It seems pretty exciting, right? So
I think so.
Inseparable is then one with Naya. Alpine Houndmaster, which we spent a lot of time talking about earlier, is a Naya card that's producing red and white dogs, right? Like, you would just play Ren and Seri Inseparable. You instantaneously could just like slam down a pair of dogs off of 1 Alpine Houndmaster, get 2 cats, and then you're like locked and loaded for that Lightning Helix-like ability at the bottom. That ability is really powerful, right? So it's the number of dogs you control and the number of cats you control. So even if you don't have other dogs or cats, Ren and Seri Inseparable is like a pinger, right? Like a life-linking pinger.
And remember, regardless of whether you play cats or dogs, Rin and Seri gives you whichever one you're missing. So in general, everything you play after Rin and Seri is scaling up at the same rate.
Yeah. I like the fact that the cats and the dogs are like the one of them is damage and then one of them is life gain. Typically, you're going to want damage more than you're going to want life gain. And conveniently, we spent a bunch of time talking about how you could get extra dogs with card advantage. So that's something that I think most of the Ren and Seri Inseparable decks are going to probably lean on Houndmasters.
Oh, for sure. It would be crazy not to, I think, at least in Standard. But I think Ren and Seri, it's not exactly lined up well for what Standard is about at the moment. But I think that you can play enough just good cats and dogs that there might not be that much opportunity cost to it,
Yeah.
And it's like a must-kill threat, right?
Yeah, unless some decks are obviously just going so far over the top, or even if they're playing cards that theoretically interact with the opponent, they're they're just on another tier. I think that those kind of decks might not have to think about Ren and Ciri Inseparable as a must kill or a must counter type card. But I think, like, I hate to put it this way, like most decks that are playing kind of on a fair battlefield, this is going to be a really, really significant thing to have to deal with. And that just the implication is there's going to be so many card advantage engines that are going to be available to a Dogcat deck, right? Like, if it's one of those spots where if every card isn't the front side or the back side of an Ancestral Recall, the payoffs are going to be cards like this that are super meaningful body, powerful special abilities, and then instantaneous army, all kinds of stuff like that. I think, like, this is really reminiscent to me. I think if you put it in a similar space, it's not exactly the same thing, of like Teamer Adventures as opposed to Teamer Reclamation. I don't even remember. Teamer Adventures was dominating standard for a good stretch there, where not any individual card wasn't necessarily that great, but like every single card was generating card advantage. So it just had this space where you're just like, all right, every single thing that I do is like 2 or 3 cards. Can you beat 2 or 3 cards 20 times? And I think this is a similar thing.
Yeah, the only thing, you're not necessarily getting this right up front, right? Like, a lot of the time, you're going to have to play Ren and Ciri and cross your fingers. But, I mean, I do like, by the way, as a note on that, you have to play every time you're getting 2 or 3 threats. It really makes it less painful to draw the random Watchdogs and Curs. Just because you're getting an extra 1/1 out of the deal, like sure. at least you're getting that extra +1/+1.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, what do you think about this card as a 5-drop, where you're just like, pay 4 for Ren and Ciri Inseparable, and then spend 1 mana for that 1/1 dog, that the Selfless Savior.
That's a good sequencing.
Yeah, so you're just like, boom, Selfless Savior, immediately get a 1/1 trigger on the cat side, and you have, kind of a defender for Ren and Ciri Inseparable already in play.
That could be okay. I don't think it's not like getting your first 1/1 trigger is so crucial of a thing that you need to like warp your whole game plan around it. But
well, I think that getting a payoff on it depends, right? If you're playing against red aggro, every single 1/1 body matters because they have so many 1 toughness creatures, right? So that would be a thing that I might want to do. But then separate to that, I think that the bigger thing here is that you just have that dog to potentially help block as well as defend Ren and Ciri Inseparable to get to an untap.
So what do you think of, on the note of some of the cats and dogs, what about like Feline Sovereign, the 2 and a green, 2/3, other cats you control have +1/+1 in protection from dogs. And whenever 1 or more cats you control deal combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls.
So I kind of love this card. Just I never say this. I love it from like a flavor standpoint. It really feels like, oh, that's how some of these animals just behave, right? And I think that they did a great job of capturing that with the the target artifact or enchantment ability. Obviously, the ability to give other cats and dogs +1/+1. Other cats +1/+1 is going to be valuable in a deck that has a lot of cats. 2/3 for 3 isn't the worst, and you're going to have all these other payoffs.
It's also depending on how reliably you have your dog cat, Rin and Ciri. It does make it so that all your dogs that have now produced cat tokens, all those cat tokens are a lot stronger.
Yeah, they're making 2/2s. So it's interesting. There's 2 good sequences. If you play Feline Sovereign first and then Ren and Ciri Inseparable second, to begin with, Ren and Ciri Inseparable is going to go to 5/5, right? Because that's a cat, and other cats you control get +1/+1. And if you play it the opposite, you play Ren and Ciri Inseparable followed by Feline Sovereign, you're going to get a dog token, and I guess that's not that exciting. But but other future cats will be getting paid off.
What do you think of the idea of being like real heavy on either cats or dogs versus the like more even of mixture?
I think that if it were me right now, having not actually played the format yet, my bias would be to limit colors, right? Not have like a third green, a third red, a third white sort of thing. So limit colors, maybe like heavy red and white splash green, and then emphasize dogs. That would be that's my current bias. I like it for the engine on the Boros guy we were talking about. I think is a thing that you really want to be able to cast on turn 2. So minimizing colors is a way to help with that. And then I think maybe more importantly, I'm more into dealing damage than I am into gaining life. So.
Well, I mean, also pack leader is a little cheaper of a dog lord, right? 1 and a white for a 2/2. Other dogs you control get +1/+1, and whenever pack leader attacks, prevent all the combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control, which includes itself.
Oh, that's really powerful, right? You can just send the dogs on what would otherwise have been a dangerous mission, let's say, and not gonna bite them in the snout.
And that's part of the reason why I really think you got to investigate shaving some of those watchdogs and curs, because it's not like you want to just eat up 16 of your slots this way. Like your 2-drops. Maybe you want to have 16. But like, there's a real price to pay. It sure would be nice to have some 1s and some 3s,
Well, maybe your 1s are going to be selfless saviors for sure, right? You're going to definitely play that card in a doggy deck. So,
well, it's confusing to me how much you even need to be all in on dogs. Like, what if you just played at a Boros aggro deck? And it just so happened that, 60% of your creatures were dogs. It's possible that this pack leader could still be good enough, right?
Sure. I actually love those decks that are like kind of linear aggro. Best example I can think of is Ben Rubin's deck from the Masks Block Pro Tour way back in 2000 New York. Everyone else had long Rebel Chains. Ben Rubin was playing mostly a Blastoderm Sapperling Burst deck that happened to play Ramosian Sergeant and a little bit of a chain. I think you can find a strategy, like you were saying, a Boros aggro strategy that has enough of a support to get there, and it just so happens that the creatures that you choose are a little bit better than they might be without the linear aggro value.
Mm-hmm. Here's a dog for you, dude. Bolt Hound. 2 and a red, 2/2 haste, and when it attacks, your other creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn.
I kind of like the first part of Bolt Hound a lot.
The first part? The 2/2 haste part?
Yeah. The card is really reminiscent to me of a lot of cards that we used to play in days gone by, kind of like the Sukata Lancer type. I understand that's
the part you're into?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you can always put a 2/2 haste to work, but, like, don't you just, like, isn't this card like all those, like, goblins where, like, for instance, paying red for a 1/1 haste that gives all your creatures +1/+0 until end of turn has been a cross-format, role player at times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't this card, like, way better?
Yeah, those cards always confuse me, man. I always just try to bolt them. Sometimes it works out. I don't know. Like you have to be pretty wide to get paid a lot off the Bolt Hound. So I feel like I'm in the zone where if I like the fail state version of the Bolt Hound, and then everything else is gravy.
Well, you don't like a 2/2 haste for 3.
I mean, I don't like it enough to play it just to play it. I mean, I would imagine that I was playing this in a deck that could take advantage of some other stuff. If I had Pack Leader in my deck, for example, right? Bolt Hound's a 3/3 haste for 3.
Yeah, but you still wouldn't play that.
Maybe not.
No, but what you need is this bottom ability. This bottom ability. I mean, the question of how much you're paying is a good question. Like a 2/2 haste for one in a red, that'd see a little bit of play. You know, if it's got two good types like elemental and dog. So you're paying one more mana for what? For this pretty dope attack trigger, right?
Yeah, so I guess if I'm like turn 2 pack leader, turn 3 bolt hound, I'm attacking for 6 and nobody dies.
Could be.
That's fantastic, right?
If you actually get to attack.
Oh, well, all right. I mean, it's not exciting at all if you kill my creatures.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why you need the Houndmaster, so you can like get ahead of people trying to do that kind of nonsense. What do you think of this is a different direction, but Karavik the Spiteful, the 2 black 3/2, other creatures get -1/-1.
All right, so I was excited when I first saw this card. I mean, Karavik's Spite, in fact, is one of my favorite cards to play 21 years ago. I was a big fan of that card. There's some exciting stories in Magic the Gathering around it. I gotta say, I was expecting more than a Stronghold Taskmaster. That's about what this is, right?
I mean, it depends on what you're into, right? Like, it's basically that, right? But like, it's legal. The Taskmaster was in a very different age, right? And it was pretty good.
That's true. I mean, this guy will mess up the average token deck. Gotta say that. Also, he retains his own size, right? So he's a 3/2, doesn't hurt himself at all.
He's also human. So, like, maybe I guess it's tough though, because if you ever taken advantage of humans, this ability is probably not that good.
I think that this card is gonna find homes. I think this card is probably going to be played in some good decks. I think that it's probably going to be played as a sideboard card.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I just don't see this card as being an exciting main deck card unless we see some sort of like weird universe where people are playing a lot of Grim Tutors. But you don't even want to cast that card too much.
Are there going to be any combo decks with Carrying Grub? This is 3 and a black, 0/5. But it's got +X+0, where X is the greatest power among creatures in your graveyard. And when Carrion Grub enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. And this is a viewer deck, since apparently all we do is mill ourselves in this world.
I think that it could enable something. Maybe it would be played alongside other cards that had similar abilities, right? I don't know. That's not the most exciting way to mill in my imagination.
Yeah, but it's pretty good with like, say, take like Lord of Extinction for instance. You know, if you somehow find a way to make this Grub hit for 20, that's exciting.
It doesn't have haste, right? I mean, I guess
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I guess you could like cast a Carrion Grub, flip an Anger. Flip, I don't know.
Well, dude, I don't know.
Enough. No, I'm trying to imagine it to be exciting. I think that it could be exciting. But I mean, let's say we're talking about standard. What even has a high power?
Yeah,
like a high enough power that you want to play Carrion Grub. I'm like it's just going to be like a.
I'm talking about for a higher power, like making a tier 6 sweet combo deck.
Yeah, I don't think so. On the subject of milling, what do you think about the new enchantment? The 2 and a blue, every time you draw a card, mill. Is that a playable card?
I don't know. That doesn't sound good. Like, I mean, there's got to be so much better ways to do that, you know?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, what if you had like 3 of them in play?
Yeah, but so what? What if you had like 1.5 in like what? You know that enchantment that every time you play a blue card, you get to mill 2 cards? I don't know, man.
Yeah, people use that card to mill themselves.
So I don't know. Seems weak.
Seems loose. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
I can buy cards that cost 3 that don't affect the battlefield and take 15 turns to win not being that good.
Dude, Faith's Fetters. Here's a card you got some history with.
I love Faith's Fetters. I played that card in so many sideboards.
Dude, and the card is so much better now, right? Like being able to Faith's Fetters your opponents to fairy, that's like the real deal, right?
Oh yeah. Nobody can interact with an enchantment. This card, so Faith's Fetters, 3 and a white, enchant permanent, whatever permanent you want. That enchanted permanent can't attack, block, use its activated abilities. You gain 4 life. This card,
it's not as busted as when you used to have to legend rule yourself, but you know what I mean. Where it's like you have to play a second planeswalker and get nothing. Yeah. Now at least you can like get rid of the first one. But it's still like a great anti-aggro card that has the flexibility to be good against the creatureless decks.
Do you know what I hate about Faith's Fetters in 2020?
What's that?
Yorion.
Well, that's a good combo.
Yeah, it's Yorion is already too good. People are playing these Yorion decks that just play like 3 Yorions in the main deck now. Right? Like, this is not what we need.
Do we need opposition for the spirits decks? Like 1 in a blue, 2/2 flying that can only block creatures with flying, and it has tap to untap spirits you control to tap target creature you don't control.
I gotta tell you, I'm liking the look of a lot of these aggressive blue creatures. I think that one's good. I think the Pilferer is good. You're talking about the
Shacklegeist.
Yeah, it's I think there's going to be a deck there.
It's particularly nice if you make any 1/1 spirit tokens. You know.
How do we do that in standard?
With like when our guy dies with Afterlife.
That's the thing that happens? Okay.
No, it doesn't happen that much, but if you ever did, it happens sometimes, that 4/3 flyer. You know, some people play that card.
Yeah. I'm thinking like some sort of Blue Skies deck, maybe with a little UUUX to refill. Might be something going on. Look, it's like...
Dude, you always want that card to be good.
You just have a lot of tapping.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Especially if you got like some flash guys, you can tap with those, then you can put them into play, then you can tap those guys that you just put into play with Shacklegeist to tap their other stuff. Nobody can attack you. There's a lot of tapping. There's a lot of putting things into play. There's a lot of triggers.
Yep. All right, dude. So what's your top card of the set? The one you're most looking forward to playing?
Oh, top card of the set? I don't know. I have to think. I think of that top card of the week for sure. It's Alpine Houndmaster. I was a little like, oh, I think this card might have some potential at the beginning of the chat, and then like 5 minutes in, I was like, oh my gosh, this is Squadron Hawk.
Yeah, I think Houndmaster is my card of the week, slam dunk. But I think it's in the running for card of the set.
It's a pretty good card.
This card's the truth.
Card of the set. Huh.
It's going to be lame if it turns out it's just Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
I'm going to go with Radiant Fountain.
Okay.
Radiant Fountain is a baller. The card always sees play in every format.
Awesome, dude. All right. See you next week.
What's your card of the set?
No, I told you, dude. It might be the Houndmaster.
Okay.
And then maybe it's Ugin.
Yeah.
Which sucks. But
Ugin
whatever.
and Radiant Fountain they conveniently go in the same decks a lot of the time.
That's true. Yeah, right. No, put me down for sure rooting for the Houndmaster.
All right. I'm also great. Tried to play dredge, it's a jail or hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a